Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our 30th Areopa webinar. And today we have a topic on Power BI and Business Central, of course, combined the two with that. Deep dive tips and tricks by Renato and Steven Renders. Let me put them in view. I'm very happy that they volunteered to do this presentation. Of course, I leave them to introduce themselves. They can give a better view on themselves, but both of them, Steven and Renato, are Microsoft MVPs on Business Central. Today, like ever, we'll keep to the rules that your mic is muted, that you have the ability of posing questions in the GoToWebinar window. Feel free to do that. I'll be your moderator. My name, if you didn't know that, is Luc van Vugt. And we agreed that we will save the questions till the end. Although if a question really relates to what is happening at the moment, I will step in and pose it to either Renato and Steven. As you know, it will be recorded, and probably already tonight it will be on our YouTube channel. You find the URL here. If you have still not been subscribed to our newsletter, use this short URL, although it's not that descriptive. And also feel free to inform your colleagues, whomever you think are interested in this. Upcoming webinars, we've got quite a nice agenda already set for the next one in 2 weeks' time on February 23 by Gabor Farlut on virtual entities. On the 23rd of March, there's a gap in between. We might have somebody already for the 9th, but let's see. For the 23rd of March, Andrei Baludin on replicating data using the what formerly was called the Common Data System, or Microsoft Dataverse as it had been renamed, on April 6th. So the next one, 2 weeks later, by Christoph Bialowas on assisted setup. And the last one that has been planned, has been scheduled for now, is on April 20. So almost every 2 weeks, with a small interval, we have already a program set. The last one by Tobias Fenster on calculating Azure costs by using the pricing API. So if you have topics or people that could be presented yourself, use the opportunity to let us know. Of course, as we tweeted, put some messages out. As you can see, this program, these are some names you might have come across, people that have been presenting, but surely we would like also to give the opportunity to new speakers. So if you have this feeling that you would like to try, contact me, and let's see what comes from it. There's always a threshold to take, and once you've taken it, it might be a good experience to continue with it. Before I'm going to hand off to Renato and Steven, I'm going to thank our sponsor who makes this possible every time again. So I'm going to make one of my presenters. So Renato, I'm now going to hand off to you, and it's up to you to go and share your screen. Thank you very much for being here, Steven and Renato, and have fun.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Luc. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Steven, would you like to start?
Yes, I will take the floor. I will do the introduction, and Renato will continue. Welcome, everyone, to this session, Power BI and Business Central Deep Dive, tips and tricks. And the goal of this session is that Renato and myself try to do a little deep dive into some interesting topics regarding Power BI and Business Central. But let's very quickly, indeed, first introduce ourselves. My name is Steven Renders. I'm from Belgium, not a native English speaker, so I speak with a Dutch-Flemish accent. Excuse me for that. I've been a consultant for many years, delivering trainings also all over the world. and I really like to explain things, and I'm also an MVP. And then Renato, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Steven. Thank you on nice introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Renato Fajdiga. I'm a, let's say, consultant in a company called Direction, where I worked on implementing Dynamics 365 Business Central. I'm consultant for more than 5 years with, let's say, a technical background. And that's why, for example, some various integrations are very, let's say, important for me, and I'm happy to see some integrations with Power BI, like one. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and Microsoft MVP for the business applications and Business Central as well. Let's now start with our webinar. So regarding our agenda for today, what we are going to speak. So we will speak and we will start to see how you can fetch the data from Business Central to Power BI, and what you need to do to have your Power BI reports in place, and how to create a really good Power BI reports. Then Steven will show you how you can build a good data model. What are the tips and tricks? What are the recommendations to build a good data model? And after that, we know that we have some very good feature, how you can implement incremental refresh, that you don't need to load all the data every time. Then we will go how to link actuals and budgets, some examples from the real world that Steven will present to you. And then later, at the end, we left some topics related to the integration about Business Central with Power BI, and then you consuming these Power BI reports in the Microsoft Teams, inside the Power Apps, and also, of course, sending the Power BI reports back to Business Central. In the end, we will show you some useful tips and tricks, how you can make your Power BI reports even better with the Business Central data. So this is our agenda and goal for today. And I will start with how do I need to fetch data from Business Central, and how does that impact my queries and performance. And this we will also take a look at the first demo today. So when we speak about Business Central and Power BI, we know that we have Business Central in multiple environments. So for example, we can have implementation in cloud, which is fully SaaS. And we can have also our data or Business Central on-prem on our servers. For example, I'm coming from Croatia, from Zagreb. We are still we use a lot of on-prem installations of the Business Central, or especially in past with now. And now when we want to build reports for our clients, back in past, before the Power BI, we used some heavy customizations and so on. And now with Power BI, we have possibility to transform the data from Dynamics 365 Business Central into the Power BI. How can we do this? Regardless where your data is stored, in cloud or on-prem, we have connector in Power BI. We have Dynamics 365 Business Central connector for the SaaS, and Dynamics 365 Business Central connector for on-prem installation of Business Central. Then when we connect our data to the Power BI desktop, we can modify reports, create reports based on the queries that we have inside the Business Central. In today's demo, I will show you how you can create one simple report for tracking your inventory inside the Power BI. When you have your data in Power BI desktop, you can then publish them to the Power BI service. I also want to emphasize some other things. Is that, for example, if you're using your on-prem installation of Business Central, you can also have access to SQL database. So you can use the Power BI desktop to connect directly to the SQL database like its normal SQL database. So you can utilize this connection. If you are using the Business Central connector, then it will use OData protocol to get your data from the Business Central as a source to the Power BI. Also in, let's say, in SaaS implementation, so when your data is in the cloud, so fully SaaS, you can connect directly Business Central with Power BI service. And what is the Power BI service? This is the cloud service for the Power BI, where you can publish your reports. So first, I will create my reports in the Power BI desktop. I'll be happy with them. I will do the measures, modify and transform my data, and then I can upload the reports to the Power BI service. In this case, I have a bunch of new possibilities inside the Power BI service. One of them is that I can package my reports and share it with my colleagues. For example, I can create one application inside the business in Power BI and then share the report with my team, for example, who is responsible for managing the inventory. One of other very good examples of using the Power BI service is that you can connect Business Central SaaS, so only SaaS, with predefined report templates for Business Central. So Microsoft developed, I think, 3 applications for Business Central, where you can just enter your URL for Business Central, connect with your OAuth authentication, and your data will be ready and reports will be ready in a few seconds inside the Business Central application. You can then, from the Power BI service, you can utilize all kinds of integrations. For example, you can integrate Power BI reports to the SharePoint page, or for example, you can integrate it to the Power App. One of the very good examples is that you can use Power BI reports inside the Power App, and in that way combine the data and modifying the data inside the Power App for the Business Central, and then view the Power BI report inside the Power App. So there is no need that you need to switch from one application to another. Everything can be done from one single source. Of course, you can embed Power BI reports to your website and show them on the mobile. Okay, so this was theoretical practice. So let's now see our first demo, where I will show you how I create one simple query extensions, and then I use them in my Business Central SaaS to build a report that will analyze my inventory and show me in very nice report what is my inventory per location, because I have a lot of locations in my Business Central and I want to see where my inventory is inside my warehouses. So I will go here, close this. Okay, so for the first, I will open a Power BI desktop. And what I want to show you for the beginning is how we can connect to the Business Central data. And I click on the More. In a few seconds, it will open me the Get Data screen, where I can look for example, SQL. It will give me the possibility to connect to SQL Server database. If I have my Business Central on-prem, I can easily connect to this SQL Server database. If I want to use Business Central SaaS, for this I have Business Central connector that is available to connect to the Business Central SaaS, as we don't have the access to the full SQL. Also, we have special connector that is using OData for on-premise implementation. So we can choose for the on-premise installations how we are going to fetch the data. And of course, we have possibility to use OData feed, like we are using the web services inside the Business Central. So these are the 3 possibilities how you can fetch the data from the Business Central to the Power BI. So let's now see my example. And for this, I created a small extension. So when I go like this. So here I have my small extension that is called fetching my data from the Business Central, and I create one query called query inventory. I see that this query is type normal, so it is not a query of type API, and I specify that this query is that it has property data access intent read-only. This means that my query will target the read-only copy of the Business Central database in the cloud. That means that it will give me a slightly delayed data in my query. What else I need to specify, of course, under the elements, I need to specify what is my data source. In my case, I'm using the data source called item ledger entry, because there I have all my transactions per my items, and there I will find also information about my warehouse. So I have it here. For this purpose, I created data item ledger entry, and I filtered all my transactions that I want to see, all open transactions. So I'm not interested in the transactions that are already closed, that we, for example, sold this item. Also, inside one query, you can bound multiple other data items or data sources. For example, I used for this example item. Why I need item? Because on the item ledger entry table, I don't see item description. And I want that my user who is working on mobile see the item description and what is his availability per each location. So for this, I need to specify what is my relation between my item ledger entry table and between my item table. And then I can bring fields from item table. So for example, here I have the description field, base unit of measure, unit cost, and so on. So this is one of the examples how you can create a query and then bind multiple sources inside the one query. Also for my extension, I created second query that is query locations, and it will give me information about my warehouses. Why I need this? Because I want to see information about the location. For example, warehouse name, what is the city of this location, and in which country region my warehouse is located. Later, when I publish this, I will do some modifications inside the Power BI desktop to see and to connect two queries. At the end, what I did is I created a web services XML, and I published my queries as a web service. So this is what I developed. And now when I take a look at my Business Central, so this is my Business Central, here inside the web service, I will see my two queries, so query inventory and query locations, and I see that they are published. You can also see that Microsoft is suggesting us that version 03 of OData, version number 3, will be deprecated for the SaaS, so we need to use OData v4. Good. Now when I have my queries ready and published inside the Business Central as a web services, I can consume them in my Power BI desktop. For this, I already get the data from the Business Central, but to just show you how you can do this, I will open the Get Data. I will choose my Business Central. I will select the SaaS. In a few seconds, I will get my environments. And here I see that I am using Wave 2 Sandbox. What is my company? And here, if I scroll down, I will find my query inventory and query locations. So now this is available inside the Power BI. If I click load, it will load my data. To not waste our time on loading data, I already prepared the examples. So here I can see my data from Business Central. So my item ledger entry and my locations. And as I said, I have two queries, and now I need to connect them. I connected one with relation one to many, so I have this relation between location code and code from the query location. After that, I can build the report, for example, like this, where I see per each location, what is my remaining quantity, unit cost for each of those items. And also I can bring then reports, for example, like this, that will be very user-friendly on the mobiles or in Power Apps, or when I will use it inside the Business Central. So this is the first part. If you remember in presentation, we need to get data, and now we have data inside the Power BI desktop. Second step is now to publish. I have here option to publish my data. When I publish this, it will take some time, and for this I prepared already everything. It will publish the reports inside my Power BI service. This is the Power BI service or my cloud environment for Power BI. Here I see what I have. I see my dashboard, my report, second report, and my data set. So this is my what I have. If I click on inventory by location, here I will see that my report has these pages. So, and this is the same what you saw in the Power BI desktop. Then I use these charts and I pin them to my dashboard. And now I have my two dashboards here inside the Power BI service. So these are now my Power BI reports in Power BI service. And what I can do from here, from Power BI service, I can share my report. I can, let's say, combine them in one, for example, good application that will be then shared with my users. So, for example, I want to share these reports with my users from procurement department. And for this, I need to create a new workspace. So I will click on Create Workspace. And here in my Power BI service, I can click, for example, Inventory Application. And I will click Save. Okay, I will get empty application. We can see that we are now located in the inventory application, and that we have here, we are located inside of inventory application. When I click on the workspace, I see it here. What I can do, I can click on my workspace to return back to my my workspace where I uploaded my reports. And for example, I can click Save a Copy on the report, and I can select that I want to save my report here in inventory application. And now I will go to report, and it will be here. So very simple. I added my reports here inside my inventory application. When I click on this, I will see also my content of this inventory application. What I need to do, I need to create an application, write a good name, for example, analysis, choose the color, icon if I want, and I will publish an app. I can publish. Before that, I can specify, for example, navigations, permissions, with who I want to share, if I want to share with my entire organization, or as I said, with my procurement admin and procurement and purchasing agent. So these are the users that are interested in this. And I will publish this application. And in a second, I will get my Power BI application ready to be used by my users in procurement department. So we see that we have blue color because we choose the blue color on the setup and so on. Good. So this is how can you easily transfer your data from the Business Central to Power BI desktop, published to the Power BI service. And also what I said, that we can use standard out-of-the-box Microsoft applications. If I click on the apps, I will see my applications. So this is what I built, and this is something from Microsoft. But I can click on the Get Apps. And here I can find, for example, Dynamics, Business Central. And here I will find some Microsoft applications for the Power BI. And for example, if I choose this one, it will load the data. Here I need to get it now. Continue. And I need to install this application. Okay. In a few seconds, I will get the same application like I have it here for the sales that is fully branded with Microsoft logos, with Business Central logos, with data from my Business Central. And this is how it looks like, for example, a finished product from when you connect your data from Business Central SaaS to Power BI service. Okay, Steven, now do you want to show us what are the possibilities and how we can model the data inside the Power BI?
All right, I will do that. Let me show my screen. Let me know if you can see my slides.
Yes, we can.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can now build a good data model. What you notice is that we need to fetch some data from Business Central. We can typically use query web services or page web services. Both of them have advantages and disadvantages. But in the end, in Power BI Desktop, it's always a good recommendation to create a star or a snowflake schema. And what it means is that you will have one table in the middle, which is called the fact table, and that contains the facts, as we say, the numbers we would like to analyze. It can be sales, can be inventory, can be financial information. And then we're going to surround that table with other tables, which we call typically dimensional tables in the BI context. These could be dimensions from Business Central, but could also be a customer, an item, a vendor, a resource, and so on. The star data model gives us the best performance. It's also very easy to understand. Someone that did not create it should be able to understand and use it. You can enlarge on this a little bit further. If you need to make some relationships in the dimensional tables, you can do so. And then when you try to zoom out, you notice that it doesn't resemble a star anymore, but it starts to resemble a snowflake, and that's called the snowflake schema. And here you can see some examples. If I zoom in, this is actually for a sales report with the fact table sales in the middle, surrounded with all of the other tables linked to it. And there are some other examples too, but let's have a look at a small demo. So as Renato also already explained, what we're typically going to do is we are going to create some query and or page objects and publish them. Now, my personal opinion is that each of the tables in your star, the facts, and also all of these dimensional tables should be separate query objects. For example, I can have one for the inventory, I can have one for the items, which you can also connect, for example, in Power BI. The advantage is that all of these different web services, you can consider them as blocks of Lego that you can very easily reuse whenever you need to create another report. So it can be really nice to build it in that way. So that's why I have these different queries in here. Give you a small example. If I would like to create a financial report, then I could start with some GL account information coming from the GL account table. I have some dimensions from the dimension set entry table. I have budget entries, I have GL entries. So these are all entries I'm going to fetch. Usually I use query objects. Why? Well, I can also create non-editable list pages. Performance-wise, there isn't a very big difference. In theory, there could be, but in practice, I don't notice a big difference between the two, except for the fact that in a query, what you can also do is you can apply some methods. And if you do that, subtotals will be calculated from, in this case, the amount and the quantity, and the group by on all of the other fields will happen, which will reduce the size of the result set, which should give us a performance improvement, especially while refreshing. But you build the queries, you can very easily publish them and import them into Power BI, and then build your star data model. And a very quick trick I'm also going to show you already is that when I do this from an empty Power BI report, I'm going to use the Business Central connector. So online services, Business Central. There are many different ways on doing that, but an interesting way is to try to reuse whatever you have created. So typically what I'm going to do is I'm going to always first connect to the sandbox to which I published my queries. And then select one of the queries I would like to use. I have the gel account query, for example. I'm almost never going to import them all at once. Why is that? Because that one query I might need to transform a little bit, and I might want to reuse these transformations in my other queries. So I'm going to call this the gel account query. Next, I'm going to remove this navigation part. And if you do that, what you notice is that I can see all of my environments. I can expand the environments to see other columns. If I do that, after a couple of seconds, I should also be able to see my company. So for every environment, I should see companies popping up any moment now. Let's wait through it. Voila. So I can see the name of the company. So let me rename this to environment, and this column I'm going to rename to company. And you can see the company official name and also the display name. And then I'm also interested in this data tab, which I'm going to also expand, and it's going to give me an overview of all of the web services that are available with the data and their names. Voila. And these are the only columns actually I would like to keep. So environment, company, the name of the web service, and this data column, and I'm going to remove all of the other ones. Okay, then I'm going to convert this one into text and that one too. So we have the environment, I have the company, we have the web service name, and then we have the actual columns of the web service on its own. And I'm going to call this, for example, query base. Now, this is always the starting point. And I don't want to load this into the actual model, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to disable the load. I would like to still refresh the data, but not load it into the data model later. And if now, for example, I would like to import some gel accounts or ledger entries or one of the queries that I created, what I'm always going to do is right click and a reference. A reference is basically going to copy the base query, but without the details. So it's going to build on top of that. If you have created some references and you make a modification in the original, the reference will also be auto-updated, which is nice. And what am I going to do now? Now I'm going to filter the list on of web services. I'm going to look for my, let's say, gel accounts. Voila. And then I'm going to expand the data column to see all of the individual columns of that gel account query, which should match the columns I have in Visual Studio Code. Even though you might say here it doesn't find any columns, let's wait and see until we click on OK. You should show them, unless I made the wrong selection. Previously in the base, strange. I should have that here. Well, normally if I would click on this, this would expand. It's still loading. I should be able to see all of the column names of that web service and then import it. But Murphy's Law apparently today doesn't want to do that. I've done it many times before, or I might have selected the wrong data column here. But that's the idea. I have the base here, which I can always reference to filter it on the query. I would like to import, fetch the columns, and then you also have a multi-environment, multi-company query that you can reuse. You can save this report as a template. A very quick tip about how to do that. But today, unfortunately, that doesn't want to work. And then in the end, what you're going to create are reports that always follow the star schema. Here we have an example. Gel entries is in the middle here of the star. The fact is in the middle of the star. So star and snowflake are very interesting models to follow. That would be my first recommendation. I prefer to use queries over pages because we can aggregate queries with subtotals and grouping. So in theory, that should be faster. However, in a query object, you cannot do any calculations, no IL code. So if you need to calculate a field, maybe a page might be more interesting. However, sometimes you can also still use queries without any calculations and do the calculations in the Power BI reports. It all depends a little bit on what you would like to do. So from this, you should remember Snowflake, star or Snowflake, and always follow these rules. If you do not create the data model using a star or a Snowflake schema in Power BI, no problem. You can still create Power BI reports, but at a certain moment, you're going to start to experience performance issues. And you're also going to notice that whenever you would like to create a calculation, a DAX measure, the formulas can be very difficult. And whenever you notice yourself writing an enormously complex DAX formula, stop writing that. Stop trying to learn more DAX to be able to write the formula. No, have a look again at the data model. It might not be a star or a Snowflake, and then optimize the data model. And then you will notice that your DAX formulas will also become much easier. All right. Now, when we create these Power BI reports, it is very important to realize that by default, whenever you do a refresh, manual or scheduled, that it's always a full refresh. And the question is, how can we implement an incremental refresh? Now, when we go and have a look online, there is some documentation available about Power BI incremental refresh. I think I accidentally killed that link, but here in the docs, you're going to see some documentation. It's not something that does not exist. It used to be a premium only feature, which has now also become available in the Pro version of Power BI, which is the affordable version that costs you about 10 euros per user per month. What you notice is that there are some buttons that you can use by using parameters on which you can then enable incremental refresh and so on and so on. It all looks very nice, but what you should also do is read the little letters, as we say, the comments, the problems, and what you're going to notice is that it works very well if you go directly to a SQL database, but it does not work when you use OData data sources. And the web services from Business Central are based on OData. So basically, this means that the built-in incremental refresh does not work with the Business Central connector. So then we need to figure out a workaround. I found one. Based on a blog post from someone else, someone in the Power BI world. But it's a workaround. It's not a complete replacement of how incremental refresh should work. Now, what is the workaround? Basically, it's very simple. I have a report. No, not this one. I have a report here, and I have actuals versus budgets, which means I have a very big fact table with some GL entries, and I would like to implement an incremental refresh. What am I actually going to do? Let me go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to import the GL entry table. And then in Power Query, I'm going to split it into two tables based on a date, for example, a cutoff date. And that cutoff date can then be used to filter the posting date or any other date coming from the GL entries. The old table, the one with all of the static GL entries that actually don't need to be refreshed because they never change. I'm not going to refresh it in Power BI Desktop. And the new one, I am going to refresh it. And then I'm going to join it back into Power BI. Let me demo that quickly. So I'm going to start Power BI Desktop. By the way, I will also make all of these files available on my GitHub so you can play with them afterwards. Okay, just waiting for this Power BI to open. I notice that usually when I do a presentation, it might go a little bit slower, but okay. I'm going to use the Business Central connector once again. Not going to do it multi-company, multi-environment. I'm quickly going to fetch some data, some GL entries from my sandbox. So let's go there. All right, GL entries. And the trick is to go into the Power Query editor. Simply going to load everything in here, not going to take into account into special fields. And then basically I'm going to create a parameter. And this parameter, for example, is going to be a cut-off date, in which I can say, okay, this is going to be a date, the 1st of January, let's say 2020. All right, that's a parameter that I create. You can change that later. And the GL entry table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically copy or duplicate it. Actually, I could also reference it. It doesn't really matter. Reference that. This is going to be the static table that I don't need to refresh anymore. And here I'm going to then filter the posting date on a date filter before, let's say, the cutoff date, which in my case is a parameter. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing exactly again with GL entries. I'm going to reference it, and this actually needs to contain the entries I would like to refresh. So here I'm going to implement a similar, but a different filter, which I will say it needs to be after or equal. So I select after and change that into after or equal that cutoff date. So I filtered the two tables. Once the filter is applied, we should see it updating the static entries, the new entries. Okay, I see there are more new than static entries, so I might need to change the date, but that's because of the Kronos demo data. Don't worry about that. And the trick here is to say on the static table that it does not need to be refreshed. That's it. So it's never going to refresh while the other one is going to refresh. The base query I'm also not going to load. So that means that if I'm going to click on close and apply, only the static table and the new table will be loaded. The queries will be executed now. And then in DAX, by using a union statement, I will be able to union them back into one GL entry table. And that's it. Then we have implemented the incremental refresher. Right now we have two tables. There is a relationship in here, but I'm also going to delete it. And what I'm going to do right now in DAX is create a new table using a little DAX statement. I will call this GL entries, and then I actually need to say I would like to union. And then I'm going to say GL entries new and the GL entries static. That's it. I'm going to union them back. I can do that because they have exactly the same columns. This is now the GL entry table. These ones I don't really need anymore. I can hide them in the report view so the users will not be bothered by them. And that's it. So now I have a GL entry table with an incremental refresh. I documented this also. You can ask a lot of questions about it because I could also do the join in Power Query instead of doing it in DAX, but I have noticed that it doesn't work if you join back in Power Query. It tends to work fine in Power BI Desktop, but when you schedule the refresh in the Power BI service, it doesn't work anymore. So that's why I do the join in DAX. Voila. So that's a little bit of information about how to implement an incremental refresh. I'm going to cover one topic quickly. Because I might be running a little bit out of time. I notice that Renato also has some topics to cover. I'm going to do a few Q&As. But a question I sometimes also get is how can you link actuals and budget? And it actually builds on top of the fact that when you create a star or a snowflake schema, there is supposed to be only one fact table. And when you would like to, for example, do a actuals and budget, that means you will have two fact tables, one with the entries and one with the budget. So how do you do that? Well, there are different solutions. And the solution is to try to go back to the situation of having one fact table. I have different solutions for that. Imagine I have my GL entries here. Let me draw that again. The GL entries and the budget, both of them are fact tables. I can try to find the relationship. If you're able to do so, don't leave it like that. It's very similar to header and line. If you have a relationship, you can draw it, but it's better to either join the two tables or to do what I have done right here, find some kind of a relationship allowing you to bring over the budget to, for example, the GL entry table, and that's what I've done right here. From that moment on, in the GL entries, you have the actuals, but also the corresponding budgets. There is one fact table that contains all of the information, and you're ready, and I can hide the GL budget table. This is a simple solution. However, there's one caveat here, because I bring over the budgets to the GL entry table, we'll be able to see all of the actuals and the defined budgets, but I will not be able to see the budgets, and then, for example, where there were no ledger entries. You can fix it by turning around the relationship, but also that is not really a good solution. And the final solution of being able to see all of the entries for which there were budget and no budget, and all of the budgets for which there were entries and no entries, would be this. This is a data model where no, not this one. This one. Let's click that again here. Here I have a data model where I will be able to see everything. And what you notice is that I created a fact table that contains the actuals, the budgets, and for all of the dates by trying to find a table and that has the capability to link each and every record from the GL entries and the budgets. Basically, I've created this fact table in Power Query by finding the common link between GL entries and budgets, which might be the dates and or the month and or the year and or the GL account and or all of the possible unique combinations of dimensions. Then creating some kind of a cross join that then generates that fact table, allowing you to link everything and use it as a point in the star. I understand I might be going a little bit fast in that right now, but then you have a fact table that you're then able to use in the point of the star again, and in this, based on this fact table and these relationships, you can also build the measures and compare sales versus budget in detail. There are many solutions on that. But the idea is to always go back to star, either find a link and do the calculations in index, or try to merge budget and GL entries together in some kind of a join. If that's not possible, you can maybe try to invent a new fact table based on some kind of a cross join between the two tables and the fields you would like to use in the link, and then you're able to link actuals and budgets. Voilà, these are quickly the demos I wanted to do. Of course, we only have one hour. Renato also might have some demos to do. Now, I think we have about 10 minutes left. So what I propose, Renato, if it is okay, fine. If it is also fine for you, is that you do one of your two demos, and then we can see if there are any questions and zoom into that. And if there might be no questions or not a lot of questions, we can then do maybe also some other demo.
Yes, Steven, I agree with you. I already prepared one of my demos, so I will be fast and clear with this second demo. So can you please just switch to me?
Yes, give me a second. You should be presented now.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. So thank you, Steven. Now I will deep dive into how you can integrate Power BI that we built on top of Business Central with Power App, and also how you can embed Power BI report back to the Business Central. So for this, I will start with Power BI and Power App, and I'm calling this bidirectional relationship. Why? Because in Power App you can embed Power BI and then have reports, Power BI reports in your Power BI reports into Power App, or you can have a second kind of integration is that you can embed Power App inside the Power BI. And in this way, you can then have control over your data. For example, I am managing master data and I am tracking my customer information, inventory information. I can embed Power App and control my, for example, inventory from the Power App that is embedded into the Power BI report. And the source of the data for the Power App is actually the Business Central. What I would like to show you in my demo is how you can connect the first one, Power BI, into the Power App. And for this, I will open my Power BI service. And if you remember, I have this item location dashboard where I see my item location report, where I have my item per each of the locations, or I have location item report, where I see my locations, 3 locations, and all the items inside each location. Now, I want to make a Power App for my user who is managing the inventory. And for this, I will log into the make.powerapps.com. And now when I go to the apps, I already have one app called Inventory. When I click Edit, in a few seconds, my Power App will open, and I will show you how this works. I have the Power App that is showing me information about my items, so about my products, and some details about the quantity and so on. So when I click Skip here, I will get my data from the Business Central inside my gallery. So here it will data from my Business Central. If I take a look at the source, I see that I connected to my Business Central. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, but what is important to me when it's load, it will also load this Power BI report. If you see, when I run the application, you see that how I navigate through my list of the items, it will automatically filter the Power BI report. And it will show me where I have each of those items. How I achieve that, when I click here, okay, and I select my Power BI report. So this is my Power BI report. Power BI report chart here. In the URL, tag URL, I have the connection to my Power BI report on the dashboard. And what I need to do, I need to filter my report. What is the query inventory? So this is the source. When I open here the Power BI desktop, so I need to open my data, my table, query inventory. What is the key on which I am filtering? So it is item number. So this is my field here in the query inventory. So item number. And I'm filtering this according to what I selected in my browse gallery 1. And I'm comparing this and filtering based on my number selection. And that's it. So this is very simple. When I run now again, it will filter it again. So this is how you can easily filter your Power BI report inside the Power App. Another example, how you can filter your Power BI reports inside the Business Central. If I go back here on my, for example, items, here I see my availability of the items, my inventory per item. But I need to go every time here on inventory, check what is the location, or of course I have standard screens where I can see my item availability by location. But for this purpose, I reused my Power BI reports that I built. And now when I go here and zoom it, I see that I have 36 pieces on each of those locations. When I hover over this, I can see how much I have in Antwerp, how I have in Brussels, and how much I have in Hasselt. And how when I go to the next one, it will automatically filter it. How you can achieve this? When I go on my Power BI service, I have a report called Power BI Inventory by Location Filtered. And what is important when I click Edit, that you place field item number, so the key on which you are filtering, so item number in filter on all pages. And this will enable your user, when he is navigating through the list, to get information filtered by item number. So this is the trick which you need to use to filter this report based on the item selection in the Business Central. And this is how you can embed Power BI inside the Business Central. And last but not least, how you can also embed Power BI inside the Business Central is if you scroll down on your role center, and I click Select Report. Here I can find all my, for example, reports. And if I click here, Enable, so this is standard Microsoft application. Click OK. it will bring me my reports, what I can do here. For example, I can expand the report like this, have multiple pages on one report. So here I can track all my sales, for example, customers, what are my top 5 customers, in what period, some sales dashboard. Or what is also very interesting is that when you go here and manage report, you can have full Power BI service experience where you can customize the reports, bring new data, visualizations, and so on in this Power BI report. So this is how you can manage also the standard reports that you have in Power BI service inside the Business Central. So for example, I can create a new, click on the edit mode, then change something, change colors, and so on. Okay, so this was my last demo. We have 5 minutes more. So I suggest that we go to Q&A. Luc, do we have some questions?
No, there are no questions. It's very clear. I have 2 questions myself. In your demo, you're using web services definitions at the start. I think that perfectly applies also to APIs, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, you can also use APIs, but the problem with APIs right now is that there's some limitations in there. In documentation, you can only get about 20,000 entities, so might not be really performant at this moment yet.
Okay.
But in the future, what Microsoft is going to do in one of the next releases is they are going to expand the Power BI Business Central connector in Power BI Desktop to also give access to the API pages. And there I hope they will also get rid of that limit of the 20,000 entities.
What is the time frame you expect this to be, let's say, possible or performant?
As I heard it, I think they will try to do that for the next release, the next wave.
That's the wave 2 for this year, or is it the wave 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Clear?
One of these 2 most probably.
Yeah. And in your demo part, Renato, where you were adding a report to another workspace, is that really copying it, or is it a reference? So are we going to clone and do we need to maintain both of them, or is it a reference to the original one?
It is copy, so you need to maintain both of them in each of the application.
Is there some trick around to somehow manage that more easily?
I didn't find, personally, I didn't find this.
Okay.
I copy it and then leave it to the user to use them.
Yeah.
Usually I have one of the master user who is responsible, and then later for managing this report, and then he's responsible for this.
But what might also be interesting to know, it's a little bit technical, but in Power BI using PowerShell, there is kind of an API that you can also use to build and deploy. So you could even create some build pipelines using DevOps and try to manage it in that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I've also opened an ID, I think on the BC ID's website, asking the Microsoft team to maybe also include that in the API of the administration tool, which would make it also easier for partners to be able to publish reports to workspaces.
Nice that you link it. I was looking at the ideas yesterday and I didn't know enough about it, and I thought, let's wait for tomorrow. But thank you very much. Steven, as a last, question is not a big question. You mentioned you were going to share it on the GitHub repo. If you can share the link with me, then I'll put it in the notes under the recording also.
Perfect. I will do that. Yeah. Perfect.
Guys, Renato, Steven, thank you very much for this. I'm very happy that I got this information from you. I hope the attendees also did. We're almost at the next hour, so you had a little bit more, I guess, but you nicely, let's say, accommodated to the time frame that we have for this webinar. Thank you very much, guys. If anybody has questions, but I didn't see anything, this is the last call for a question. Anybody a question? Then you need to type very fast because I don't have a a clear seconds going to the hour, but we're almost there. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and see you in 2 weeks' time with the next webinar. Bye for now.
Super.
Thank you, Luc.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
having us.